A long silence ensued, and then finally the door opened again. He turned his head metronomically from Augustus to me, still squinting. "Which of you is Augustus Waters?" he asked. Augustus raised his hand tentatively. Van Houten nodded and said, "Did you close the deal with that chick yet?" Whereupon I encountered for the first and only time a truly speechless Augustus Waters. "I," he started, Hazel, well, this boy appears to have some kind of developmental delay." Peter Van Houten said to Lillaby. "Peter," she scolded. "Well," Peter Van Houten said, extending his hand to me, "it is at any rate a pleasure to meet such ontologically improbable creatures." I shook his swollen hand, and then he shook hands with Augustus. I was wondering what ontologically meant. Regardless, I liked it. Augustus and I were together in the Improbable Creatures Club, us and dog-billed platypuses. Of course, I had hoped that Peter Van Houten would be sane, but these worlds is not a wish-granting factory. The important thing was that the door was open and I was crossing the threshold to learn what happens after the end of an inferior affliction. That was enough. We followed him and lit a bite inside, past a huge oak dining room table with only two chairs, into a creepily thorough living room. It looked like a museum, except there was no art on the empty white walls, aside from one couch and one lounge chair, both a mix of steel and black leather. The room seemed empty. Then I noticed two large black garbage bags, full of twist tied, behind the couch. "Trash?" I mumbled to Augustus soft enough that I thought no one else would hear. "Fan mail," Van Houten answered as he sat down in the lounge chair. 18 years worth of it. Can't open it. Terrifying. Yours are the first missives to which I have replied. And look where that got me. I frankly find the reality of readers wholly unappetizing. That explained why he'd never replied to my letters. He'd never read them. He'd never read them. I wondered why he kept them at all, let alone in an otherwise empty former living room. Van Houten kicked his feet up onto the ottoman and crossed his slippers. He motioned toward the couch. Augustus and I sat down next to each other, but not too next. "Would you care for some breakfast?" asked Lullaby. I started to say that we'd already eaten when Peter interrupted. "It is far too early for breakfast, Lullaby." "Well, they are from America, Peter, so it is past noon in their bodies." "Then it's too late for breakfast," he said. "However, it being afternoon in the body and whatnot, we should enjoy a cocktail." "Do you drink scotch?" he asked me. "Do I? No, I'm fine," I said. "Augustus Waters?" Van Houten asked, nodding toward Gus. I'm good." "Just me, then, Lillaby. Scotchy and water, please." Peter turned his attention to Gus, asking, "You know how we make a scotch and water in this home?" "No, sir," Gus said. "We pour scotch into a glass and then call the mine-thoughts of water. And then we mix the actual scotch with the abstracted idea of water." Lillaby said, "Perhaps a bit of breakfast first, Peter." He looked toward us and stage whispered, "She thinks I have a drinking problem, and I think that the sun has risen." Lillaby responded, "Nonetheless." She turned to the bar in the living room, reached up for a bottle of scotch, and poured the glass half full. She carried it to him. Peter Van Houten took a sip, then sat up straight in his chair. "A drink this good deserves one's best posture," he said. I became conscious of my own posture and sat up a little on the couch. I rearranged my cannula. Dad always told me that you can judge people by the way they treat waiters and assistants. By this measure, Peter Van Houten was possibly the world's du- Duchess Duchy. So you like my book? He said to Augustus after another sip. Yeah, I said, speaking up on Augustus's behalf. And yes, well, Augustus, he made meeting you his wish so that we could come here, so that you could tell us what happens after the end of an imperial affliction. Van Houten said nothing, just took a long pull on his drink. After a minute, Augustus said, your book is sort of the thing that brought us together. But you aren't together, he observed without looking at me. The thing that brought us nearly together, I said. Now he turned to me. Did you dress like her on purpose? Anna? I asked. He just kept staring at me. Kind of, I said. He took a long drink, then grimaced. I do not have a drinking problem, he announced, his voice needlessly loud. I have a Churchillian relationship with alcohol. I can crack jokes and govern England and do anything I want to do, except not drinking. He glanced over at Lullaby and nodded toward his glass. She took it, then walked back to the bar. Just the idea of water, Lullaby. He instructed. Yeah, got it, she said, the accent almost American. The second drink arrived. Van Houten's spine stiffened again out of respect. He kicked off his slippers.